Welcome to Effigies of Power from Meet the Muse, where we bring the dead to life, one royal at a time. This series was born from a fascination with a long-forgotten tradition of royal funeral effigies. These were life-size representations of monarchs, often carved from wood or molded from wax. These figures were strikingly lifelike. Sometimes, sculptors used death masks taken directly from the deceased. Other times, they relied on portraits or memory. Effigies were dressed in the garments and jewels of the dead and placed on display during funerals and processions, offering the public one final glimpse of their sovereign. Though we may know how they were adorned, it's not always easy to bridge the distance between past and present. That's where we begin. Using AI image generation and historical sources, we'll reimagine these effigies in their original splendor. Along the way, we'll explore every detail of their creation, their likeness, their dress, and the rituals that surround them. The first episode in the series features Elizabeth of York, the first Tudor queen. Elizabeth was born in 1466. She was the eldest child of Elizabeth Woodville and King Edward IV. Though born a king's daughter, she did not become queen as her father's heir, but through her marriage to Henry Tudor, later King Henry VII. She lived through the reigns of 5 kings: her father, Edward IV, his rival, Henry VI, her brother, Edward V, one of the princes in the Tower, her uncle, Richard III, and finally, her husband. His reign would be followed by her infamous son, Henry VIII. Her story is often overshadowed. Her pain was quiet, her public presence subdued, but her legacy was immense. Her passage from childhood to womanhood marked a turning point in English history. As a girl, she had been a princess of the House of York, shaped by the chaos of civil war. As a woman, she became the first Tudor queen, her marriage uniting the warring houses of York and Lancaster. With their union, the Wars of the Roses ended and a new dynasty began. Less than a year later, the birth of their son, Arthur Tudor, secured the fragile peace and promised a new era. Sadly, Elizabeth died at the Tower of London on her 37th birthday, February 11th, 1503, shortly after giving birth to her final child, Catherine, who also passed away. Less than 2 weeks later, on February 23rd, a grand funeral was held at Westminster Abbey. Her final procession carried not just her body, but a magnificent effigy that bore her likeness through the streets of London. What remains of that remarkable effigy survived for centuries. Today, only the head, bust, and one hand remain. These fragments are displayed in the Queen's Diamond Jubilee Galleries at Westminster Abbey. Carved from pear wood, the effigy's face is now faded, the paint worn, and the surface marked by time. Small holes in her ears hint that she once wore earrings or perhaps had a wig affixed. Before much of the effigy was lost to water damage during World War II, it was thoroughly examined by the antiquarian W.H. St. John Hope in 1907. He described it in remarkable detail. The nearly complete figure of a woman, 5 feet 11.5 inches, of a totally different character from those just described. It consists of A, a wooden head and bust with arms as far as the elbow, and B, a body form partly of hoops, partly of a covering of leather stuffed with hay, and extending from the bust, round the lower edge of which it was nailed to over the feet. The head has a round peg hole on top and a larger hole for hollowing it out. The face is carefully modeled and painted. The bust, like the head, is hollowed and covered with white or gold colored satin, seamed and edged with red velvet, and cut square across the breast and back. The right arm is lost, the left forearm is suspended with a loose joint at the elbow, and like the bust, is covered with satin. But we're also fortunate to have a detailed contemporary description of her funeral procession, an eyewitness account rich with imagery. It's in early modern English, so bear with me. I do suggest you look up the original text on your own for your own interpretation as well. The body was conveyed into the chair, which was newly apparelled as follows. First, all the bales, sides, and coffers covered with black velvet, and over all along to a pretty depth. A cloth of black velvet with a cross of cloth of silver, well fringed, drawn with 6 horses, draped with black velvet, and all the draught with the same. And when the corpse was in the same, there was ordered a holly chest over it, whereon was an image or personage like a queen, clothed in the very robes of estate of the queen, having her very rich crown on her head, her hair about her shoulders, her scepter in her right hand, and her fingers well garnished with rings of gold and precious stones. This image or personage was her funeral effigy, dressed in crimson satin, according to surviving expense records. The phrase robes of estate may even refer to her coronation robes. If so, we know from other sources that those robes were described as purple velvet furred with bands of ermine. Another document further elaborates on the funeral setting. The hearse, which was curiously wrought with imagery, well garnished with banners and banneroles, pennons, cloth of majesty, with the valance fringed accordingly, on which was written her words, humble and tenerance, garnished with her arms and other her badges. This paints a vivid picture of spectacle and symbolism, the queen's virtues literally written on cloth, her effigy adorned in state regalia, her memory elevated in majesty. But what if we could see her again, not in decay, but in splendor? Using AI reconstruction, guided by historical sources and contemporary accounts, we have attempted to restore Elizabeth of York's effigy to how it may have appeared in 1503. Every element has been informed by documentation: the crimson satin gown, the square-cut gold bodice trimmed with red velvet, the purple velvet mantle lined with ermine, the crown, the scepter, the rings, and even her hair, described as loosely falling about her shoulders. Despite using what seemed like 100 different variations of prompts, no image is perfect. Nothing captures every single detail correctly, but between these images, we can help form our own picture. Thank you for watching this reconstruction of Queen Elizabeth of York's funeral effigy. So much of Elizabeth's own voice, her thoughts, her feelings, has been lost to time. But this effigy, crafted to immortalize her in death, still survives. And now we've brought it back to life, not just to mourn, but to remember. I'd love to hear what you think. Which interpretation felt the most authentic to you? Let me know in the comments below, and feel free to share your own thoughts or questions about her story. If you'd enjoyed this exploration, don't forget to like and subscribe. That means everything to a new channel like this one. I'll be diving into more royal effigies and the forgotten stories they carry in future episodes. Until next time, thanks for helping keep memory alive.